and welcome back to our YouTube channel, Fulfill the Game of Life. Now, if you've been following along, you're probably going to notice at least two things. Number one, it's been almost 3 weeks since we posted our last video after posting multiple videos in the Algarve.
We've just been having so much fun on Madeira Island.
The second thing you might have noticed is, if you watched our beginning here, some of those 3 weeks I went into learning mode on graphic design and hope to make our introduction screen look a bit more sophisticated. Which reminds me, I got a reminder from OneDrive that it was almost exactly a year ago that we were putting together our first videos, and I am basically excited to say we're starting our second year on our channel, and I wanted to commit to a higher level of production. In our prior videos, I let the excitement of each area become more important than having good lighting on us. Just like right now, if you could see outside, this is one of the most beautiful views we've had since we've been in Portugal, but the lighting is terrible for taking videos. We would be in the dark. So anyway, long story is this. Ironically, to say we're going to increase our production value and take our videos more seriously was thwarted by the fact that we lost our microphones while we were at
We did.
in Madeira.
We must have forgotten it in one of the rental cars that on one of our excursions.
It's not we, it's me. I'm sure I lost them. So we're getting some new microphones, and hopefully we get the echoes back out of it. But the bottom line is this: we're excited to be back because this video is going to kick off a multiple video series of
Madeira Island.
The place was remarkable.
It was, like our good friend Nuno would say, from another world.
It really is. You know, I was talking to Christy on the drive preparing for this video, and this was kind of what was going through my mind is, when you go to so many places that we have since we retired, and you're often describing it to people, it's very difficult because what you end up doing is using the same words over and over, and
yeah, exactly. How else would you describe it? You'd really have to get a thesaurus out to really describe it, or you'd have to be a writer of a novel or something to really portray in words just how phenomenal and breathtaking this island really was.
Yeah.
Or is.
Yes, exactly. Hopefully in the past, if you've watched our videos, we try not to exaggerate because you lose the scale of excitement. We were truly unbelievably excited at Monsanto Castle,
yeah.
And we've seen some really beautiful things. We love all the history, and we do love Portugal. However, we have to kind of press this big giant reset button to say Madeira was truly something from another world, as they say.
Just amazing from the moment we were about to land.
Spectacular.
Yes.
It was majestic.
Yes.
The adjectives just fall short, frankly. And so hopefully, as we walk through this and we walk through kind of our entire visit over multiple videos, the one thing is you understand what we're trying to communicate, the level of excitement. Portugal has been really special for us, Italy and France and those things, but Madeira is truly a different experience, and we are so excited to share that with you. So let's get going with this video. On our kickoff here is to really introduce people who are completely unaware of the island to the island. So to kick off the introduction to Madeira is to simply say this: it's hard to believe that neither of us had any idea that it actually existed.
So everyone really has heard about Hawaii, and I think even in the first few months that we were in Portugal, we still hadn't heard of Madeira. And boy, the moment that we arrived here, it was like you said, how have we never heard of Madeira Island?
So we sit here and we start discovering it, and then we start researching it, And we're just blown away basically by our own American ignorance is probably the best way to say it, and be non-offensive to anyone. That we're just, as we land, we're shocked. And as we spent over 3 weeks on this island, we're shocked at how we just weren't aware of it. So how well known is this island? Well, we read articles that called it the
Pearl of the Atlantic,
the Hawaii of Europe.
Yeah.
These are the headlines, right? When you go to read these things. Now, we both must admit we've never been to Hawaii.
No.
Seen a lot of videos, seen movies filmed there and TV shows there. So we can't compare it directly, but we'll tell you after the end of this video series, you will be debating whether you fly to Hawaii or whether you fly to Madeira. It's that awesome. It's just fantastic. Now, Madeira, just as a little bit of a description, is really made up of 3 islands, or kind of more than that when they're smaller. But anyway, the main island, Madeira, and there is a smaller inhabited island, which is Porto Santo, and there's a third deserted island, which is called Deserta Grande. Now, just to give it a scope so you understand the size of Madeira, the main island, it's about 35 miles full east to west and only about 14 miles north to south. As I was telling Christy preparing for the video to describe what made Madeira so special is a few things, but I'll kind of try to summarize it with this. As we just said, it's a very small, physical, small island. I do believe if you rented a car, you could probably drive the entire perimeter in about 6 hours, most likely. So you could see literally every edge of this island in 6 hours. Rent a car for one day and just drive around the entire thing. What was unique, and what the videos are going to show, and we're so excited to show, is the number of natural, beautiful, and even man-made wonders that you see from an island this small. It simply made it unique to any place we've ever experienced in our entire life. This place is phenomenal.
And one of the very unique man-made things on the island was the airport. And I had no idea what to expect as we landed. So I'm looking out the window and I am looking for the airport, and I think I was in denial. I couldn't believe the location of the airport. And if you're curious, look it up. It's the Cristiano Ronaldo Airport, or otherwise known as the Madeira Airport. They named it after their national treasure, which is Cristiano Ronaldo, who is a world-renowned football player. And it is just amazing, the engineering it took. And in 2004, Madeira Island won the Outstanding Structure Award for the airport. So if you're curious, look it up. It is just amazing. We'll also include some footage of when we drove underneath part of the runway. So it was just an amazing sight.
We're fascinated just by the airport alone, literally sitting on the edge of the ocean. Most of the entire runway is man-made, built with these supporting structures, which you see. These things are remarkable. And we then traveled basically up a mountain peak and watched the airport from a distance.
Yes, and we watched some of the airplanes landing and taking off, and it was just an amazing sight.
Yes, absolutely. The next thing we'd like to talk about is, once you find out about an island, of course, you start drawing some conclusions about mentally what you expect to see when you get there. And I must say that, once again, I'm completely blown away. I literally kind of pictured an island with kind of small, like Caribbean, like huts and a few resorts here and a few resorts there, and the big long beaches, and it was completely different. It's completely different. And the first thing I would just say is this: I expected it to be less developed, and I'm telling you, this place is as developed as probably any place I've ever been. not just with the buildings, with the history, the older buildings, but the thing that I think shocked me was the highway system, which we understand is relatively new.
In the past 20 years. I think it's become highly developed and a lot easier for
For you to get around.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you can see two things that really stuck out to me. The highways, once you got to the major highways, they're almost flawless. There's not potholes. I'm talking, you can tell these things were made not too long ago. And the other thing, generically said, not 100%, but anything you want to see on the island that is a attraction, that's a tourist attraction, there's a road paved going to it. Which begs to the fact that it's so developed. They built roads really close to almost everything you want to see, which blew me away and which was made honestly the entire island even more fantastic.
Absolutely. And I think for me, I coming from mainland Portugal, I think I expected it to be, developed, but just to see, like you said, the infrastructure and the roads and all of the tunnel systems, it just kind of blew me away for such a small island to be that far advanced with the infrastructure. And it's amazing what they've done with this island and the progress that happens. And you see it in big cities. And I love that Portugal has done such amazing things on the island.
Yeah, it is so developed. The capital city is Funchal.
Yeah.
It is just packed, and there are resorts and restaurants and cable cars, and it's just packed, literally packed.
And the population, I just looked it up in 2021. Their census has it at 251,000 people that live on the island, and that's a lot for such a small island.
A little bit more history about the island. It was kind of accidentally sailed upon, from what I think we read.
Right, discovered in 1419, and in 1425, I think it was starting to be colonized because they saw the potential, not only for the location.
And yes, and a lot of the history from what we read early on, it was basically sugarcane. Madeira became important to the trade routes in the Atlantic Ocean, and eventually 17th, 18th century, an agricultural revolution on the island created one of their most famous things today,
which is their Madeira wine.
The Madeira wine, it looks like we read, and we did have quite a bit of it, very good wine. It looks like it's kind of generally described as a sweet dessert wine, and of course there are different kinds. But yes, well known for their wine.
And it's very good. To me, it tasted like when we arrived in Lisbon, it tasted like Moscatel to me.
It did. It had a similar flavor,
very
didn't it?
Similar. Yeah.
But what you could see on the island when we got there and we started going around was the agricultural influence is significant there.
And there were banana plantations everywhere.
Everywhere.
Except when you got to a certain elevation where bananas couldn't be cultivated or grown, it started the grape vineyards.
Yes, and our tour guide gave us there's still sugarcane being grown, there's sweet potatoes, those other things.
Strawberries.
But you'll be blown away when you first get there. You'll wonder exactly what they are. We saw the blue plastic bags
over the bananas, and that was basically to keep the salt. Because it's right on the ocean, it's to keep the salt from
forming on the outside,
yes.
Right? So the agriculture plays a significant role even today. But we did ask our tour guide, and he said that about 70%
of their produce is imported to the island. I think because the older generation, they're obviously getting older and they're farming less, and the younger generation, they're not so much into farming, so
they want to be digital nomads.
They do.
One of the additional unique things of Madeira is it is an autonomous government. Although it's part of Portugal by designation, it actually has its own standing government, its own parliament, writes its own laws, though highly influenced by the Portuguese laws as well, adopts many of those. The other really big noticeable thing about the island for us, especially being English speaking, is so much of this island has been um, designed to market to the British. English speaking European, as we said, is called the Hawaii of Europe.
Right.
But the British influence is really noticeable.
So our stay in Cámara de Lobos, we stayed at the Pestana Churchill Bay Hotel, and there were tons of quotes throughout that hotel by Churchill. And in that specific bay, there's a restaurant named Churchill's, and his influence there was huge. So Churchill often vacationed in Cámara de Lobos, and you can see the significant impact and influence that he had in that specific region.
Now, we didn't over-investigate this history, but we were told that after World War II, he had bought a property on the island.
Mm-hmm.
He was a painter.
Yes.
And he would come to this bay
yes.
and paint. So that wasn't the end of the British influence. One of the other stays for us.
Right. We stayed at the Vestana Grand, and so we're taking the elevator or the lift, and we hear the voice of the elevator, and it said, "Floor 5."
It was so strongly British. We cracked up most of the entire visit there, right?
Yes.
It's just interesting, right, to be in Portugal on an island, and the elevator clearly speaking with a British accent,
mm-hmm.
and it's not just a British accent; it's an exaggerated British accent from our take.
Floor 5.
Floor 5. And you're like, wow, that's interesting. But it tells you.
It was entertaining.
It was very entertaining. It gave the entire area just more character for us, right?
As an American, I guess.
Yeah.
If you're British, it's just normal to you. So
yes.
Anyway.
And if you're German or French or Italian, maybe it's not quite so entertaining. But anyway, here's the deal, guys. We are going to work on, and over the next probably week and a half, we're going to put together a series of videos to show you this island. And I'm going to tell you, this is going to be one of the most remarkable set of videos, because you always have to keep in mind that everything we're going to show you is on an island that's only 35 miles from east to west and 14 miles from north to south. It's the most densely populated, beautiful views of our entire life. So we really hope that you enjoyed just this introduction, but that you come along on the journey, because this place is remarkable. And I don't know how else to say it.
I don't even know.
It's
remarkable. You don't want to miss it.
So hold on. Come along on the videos. And if you enjoyed this introduction, and at least now, if you weren't aware, particularly Americans, and now you are aware, you just wait till you see what's here.
Don't forget to give us a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss additional content.
Thanks, guys, and just hold on to your hats. It's going to be a great ride.